My name is Mike Langston, and this is my wife, Amber. She's been attending here for quite a few years, and I've been here for about 5 years myself. And we're here to talk to you today about our foster journey and foster to adoption journey.
We got married in 2019, and at the time, Mike had 2 boys, and I had a little boy and a little girl. And we had talked about maybe having a child of our own, but
I'm old, and I was not very excited about the idea of having more children. Thinking about my child going across the stage when I was in my 60s for graduation was not exciting to me.
At the time, our children were old enough where we thought it would be beneficial to them to learn how to help others, and we thought that they would be a really big help.
Yeah, so we went through the licensure process. Within about a month, we got our first phone call.
We got fostered through Falcons Children's Home, which is about an hour away. It's close to Fayetteville. It is a Christian-based organization. They are very big on prayer, and one of the requirements is actually taking the children to church, which was something that was important to us. So like Mike said, we got our first call in October of 2020 for our first placement. And he was a little boy. He was kind of a tornado on legs, and so it took all of us to really take care of him. He turned 5 in our care. He wasn't potty trained when he came to us. Again, he couldn't speak a few words.
He had lost all his teeth in his mouth. So medical care, vision, we got him all fixed up. IEP plans at school. It was a lot of visits.
At some point, his dad was granted supervised visits and supervised phone calls. We kind of developed a relationship with him because we needed him on our team, and that was the whole point of why we got into foster care. It was shown that this little boy's dad was really trying hard to get him back in the home, and so we began to work together with him. So we had him for 6 months, and we are still in contact with his dad. He's still not back home yet. He was moved to a therapeutic home, which we were not licensed for. After he was placed in another home, we got a ton of phone calls about placements, about other kids coming into our home. You know, there was a need, so I didn't understand what was going on. But of course, God did. And the next day, we get a call from our caseworker who said there was a newborn baby surrendered at the hospital, and they had prayed over all of their families at Falcon, and God was really leading them to us. The thing was, we weren't an adoptive family. We had no intention of adopting any of these children, so we were considered their foster family. This little boy was going to be a foster to adopt situation, and she wanted to know if we were interested.
So I got a phone call from our caseworker at Falcon on Monday about the baby, and we didn't hear anything for 2 days. And as I was driving to church to serve on Wednesday night, I got a call back from our caseworker, and she said, "Hey, I got some great news for you guys. I want to talk to you about the baby." And I said, "Hey, hang on, wait a second, let me get Amber on the phone." We get Amber on the phone, and we're discussing, and as Amber said, they talked about it, they prayed about it, and they felt like we were the family that they wanted to place this child with, and could we be at the hospital the next day at 10:30. So I'd like to introduce everyone to Mr. Tate. This is our little guy, and you can see he is a bundle of joy, and he just loves to play with everybody and have a good time and ham it up.
Job,
Say bye-bye.
Say bye.
Say bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good morning, church. I am not sure that there's anything that I can say that's any cuter than that. But as I'm talking, you're going to notice that we have our foster and adoptive families up here on the screen. So I want you to still be able to see that. But have you ever had a moment in your life where you are sure that God is calling you to do something? And it may be something really big. Something that you may be nervous about, you may be scared about. I had that moment about 5 years ago. I've had that moment several times. And sometimes you may feel like Jonah, you want to take off running because you're scared. I will tell you that the Lord gives you the strength to do what he's calling you to do. But also these verses the book of James is the book that I was in when that happened for me. And so I want to read you these verses. In James 1, starting in verse 22, it says, "Be doers of the word and not hearers only." I don't know about you guys, but if you know Andre's heart for our church and the Lord's heart, that's what we want our church and our families to be marked by, being doers and not hearers only. Verse 23, "Because if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like someone looking at his own face in a mirror, where he looks at himself, goes away, and immediately forgets what kind of person he was. But the one who looks intently into the perfect law of freedom and perseveres in it, and is not a forgetful hearer, but a doer who works, this person will be blessed in what he does. If anyone thinks he is religious without controlling his tongue, his religion is useless and he deceives himself. Pure and undefiled religion before God the Father is this: to look after orphans and widows in their time of distress, and to keep oneself unstained from the world." I remember sitting at my kitchen table reading these verses, and I remember hearing the Lord say, "It's time." At that time, we had a kindergartner who's a whippersnapper, and we had an older child that was in first grade. And I remember calling my husband, and we both were like, okay, we're going to do it. And that journey has had ups and downs for us, but the blessings that have come along with it are precious. They are so precious. And so this world, sometimes the foster care and adoptive world, is kind of hidden. It's something that people don't know much about, they don't see. But I want to let you guys know what God is doing in our church. So in our church currently, at the church at Clayton Crossings, we have 9 licensed foster families. We have 10 children right now who are in foster care in those homes. We have 7 adoptive families, and we have 20 children who have been adopted into homes in this church. It is so important for us to share with you that that is what God is doing right now. We have 4 social workers here at our church, and we have 1 child advocate called a guardian ad litem. And so God is doing so much in these families through our church. I had our licensing worker visit not too long ago, and she brought another person along with her from the agency. And they said, "What church is it that you go to? Because we keep hearing about it." And I'm just going to tell you guys, if that's not marked by James 1:27 of being doers, we now have social workers that are visiting our church because of what Clayton Crossings is doing in that population. And so I surveyed one agency, just one agency, because there's lots of different ones that you can get licensed through. But just in one agency, one of the larger ones, there are 166 children just in Johnston County that are in foster care right now. There are 51 licensed homes. So if you do the math on that, Clayton Crossings is a 10th of those homes. Is a 5th of those homes, which is a huge number for them. That's why they keep hearing about our church. There have been 4 children who have come into care just this week. And the Beck House has gotten 5 calls this week to be able to take children or to be able to give respite to another family, which is a small break for them. And so the need is great. And I'll say the need is great in Johnston County, but it's great worldwide too, because some of the faces that you saw up here were also adopted from China by the Driver family here in our church. So Katie Driver would say the need is great here in Johnston County, but it's also great across the world to be able to meet these children's needs. So what do we do about that? That's what we've been trying to figure out. God is doing something here in our church, and we want to pay attention. We want to be obedient. We want to be doers. And so we're going to put a QR code up for you guys. With this number of children and families in this church, you may start praying about this, and you may decide that you have room. You can make space in your home to be able to take one of these children or two of these children. Maybe that isn't possible for you, but there are so many other ways to help support these families. And so when you click on this QR code, it'll take you to a link of all the different ways that you can help with these families here in our church. And so the QR code for the first service, I was getting all kinds of text messages, which is really exciting that it wasn't working. I'm hoping that it is now, but if it's not, it will be in our email that comes out this week. You can email me and I can send it to you, or we also are getting it right now on the website under Get Connected and Adult Discipleship.